maternal mortality as a cause of poor health. And I know that level of sacrifice by mothers is incredibly touching. I know Bangladesh also has that unique problem of the pressure many women feel to have their children at home and not go out to clinics and so on. And I wonder, what was your impression of that situation and what can help make women there, pregnant women there, more safe?
Absolutely. I mean, we saw in Bangladesh in so many circumstances where, this is where almost 80% of women deliver outside of a facility. So trying to really understand why women are making that choice, and you find out that actually they're not making that choice at all. Those choices are being made by others. I think seeing also how there was, just the not knowing that if you were to eat well every day, that your baby would be healthier. There was a sense that people didn't want their babies to grow too big. There was a lot of education that needed to be provided, and we saw a great program in the Manoshi program, that's a BRAC program there in Bangladesh. It's fascinating to see how different and how similar this experience is for so many women around the world. But I did find in Bangladesh to be completely in awe by the strength of the women. There were women that were actually in labor, hardcore labor, and you would not even hear a sound come out of their mouths. You just would barely see a tweak in their face to tell that they were in pain. To work around some of those kinds of issues is really important and something that I've seen successfully happen as well.
Jill, I'm going to put an email to you from Bangladesh, if I may. This came in from Abu Saleh in Didar, who says the best way to reduce maternity deaths is to spread awareness and educate people. We should be training people from every area in midwifery and allow them to train others. This way, the potential of knowledge is exponential. And I wonder how much that kind of education focus can help, especially a targeted campaign. Is there really any effort to do that?
There's huge effort to do that because, frankly, that's one of the huge missing links, are trained providers to help women both through pregnancy and labor and delivery. But the other piece of it is really important, Riz, and it has to do with educating girls. It's one of the most important investments governments and families can make, because when you educate a girl, good things follow. Infant mortality goes down, maternal mortality goes down, family nutrition goes up, incomes go up. They're just only positives to making sure girls have education.
Christy, in your travels, how hard did you find it to overcome cultural barriers in some places where I guess perhaps there are women reluctant to change certain habits and environments because they feel it's outside interference coming in? They might see someone coming from the West and it's not someone they can relate to.
Well, it's interesting. I think oftentimes the cultural barriers, people are afraid of how to get through them, how to break through them, so they tend to sort of lump them in an area over there. Like, we can't deal with that because it's cultural. Some of them are so simple that I think the education piece is a huge part of it. An example is a cultural barrier could be described as something as simple as a woman not wanting to have a male physician deliver her baby. I'd say that most women would prefer a female practitioner when they're having their baby. Most women feel more comfortable with a female doctor or midwife. So that's something that it's so simple how people would sort of take something like that and set it aside, and it's not really it's not something that's different to any one culture or the other.
All right. Well, Christy, let's take another look at your documentary then, No Woman, No Cry. And during that time in Guatemala, you documented the lack of access to safe and effective contraception and the alarming number of women who died due to illegal abortion. Let's take a look at this scene from your film.
Orfa, ¿y usted quería estar embarazada ahora esta última vez?
Ya no.
Ya no quería estar embarazada.
Ya no.
So here's a young woman who didn't want to get pregnant, and I guess there the issue of religion is a big factor, and I wondered to what degree that presented a challenge with trying to ensure safe pregnancy and safe motherhood.
Absolutely. When looking at making this film, oftentimes, I'm a public health student as well, so I looked at all the numbers. I saw what the contributing factors were to these maternal deaths, and unsafe abortion is amongst the top 5. So in Guatemala, it seemed a perfect place to examine that particular issue. And we found in every hospital that there were entire wards filled with women who had experienced botched abortions and were on, the verge of death. And yet they were not being dealt with. There was not enough, there's an unmet need that is unbelievable. The amount of women that came out for health campaigns to be seen, to have an opportunity to have contraception was unbelievable. So, you know, seeing that unmet need and then seeing the women in that kind of critical care, you know, this is a horrific thing to witness, and it makes you really wonder why those policies stay as they do for so long.
Well, Jill, an email from Zambia, and I know you want to add to this as well. This came from Zambia, which from Nawininamo Manza in Lusaka, who says the World Health Organization should set up emergency health centers worldwide. Untreated hypertension can increase maternal mortality, and in some cases abortion can be performed in order to save the mother's life. Now, I wonder what merit you see in such an idea, and again, that difficulty in the approach to an aborted pregnancy, both socially and from religious perspective too.
Well, there are two things. The 5 major causes worldwide, the playing ground is level. The same 5 things kill women all over the world, and postpartum hemorrhage is the first, but hypertensive disorders is a really big one. I'm not sure that having the WHO set up health services, emergency services, on the other hand, it would be a terrific thing if governments were to do that, and in fact, they're the people who need to do that. On the issue of unsafe abortion, you know, there are technologies which can help us avoid unsafe abortions or abortions altogether, and that's contraception. We know that there are 215 million girls and women who are sexually active who don't have any access at all to contraception. We have to fix that because this is their choice, honestly. If we could do that, we would reduce unintended pregnancies by almost 70%. I think it's 66%, which would reduce maternal death by 70% and unsafe abortion by almost 75%. Now, it's inexpensive, it's easy to use, and it gives the woman her choice.
Well, actually, it's interesting, Christy, something Jill has raised here, that this is something common to women around the world. And I think what would surprise a lot of people is in your documentary, you show that it's not just a developing world, developing country challenge. It's one that actually is in the developed world too. And tell me about the experience in the US and the kind of risks facing women there.
Yes. Well, in the U.S., you know, we had a hard time trying to figure out which was the best story to tell because there is so much, and there are far less deaths here, obviously, day to day. However, the U.S. is ranked 41st behind 40 other developed countries, and that is just unacceptable. What we decided to sort of look at and examine was women who were uninsured, and we found women that were falling through. You know, they were falling through the cracks, and there was no real rhyme or reason to it, oftentimes because of inconsistencies with Medicaid in their state, moving from state to state. And we found women, again, taking the, you know, sacrificing themselves for their families. You know, they had a couple of children, oh, I'll be fine, I've done this before, it'll be fine. Well, no, we need women to have prenatal care because if we can see a complication arising, and we can't tell, with 15% of all pregnancies, there will be a complication